What if everything we perceive around us, the stars, the planets, ourselves,
Mm.
what if it isn't just here, but part of some immense ancient process?
Mm.
Like, what if coming into being, for the cosmos and for us, follows these hidden patterns? Patterns understood by wisdom traditions maybe ages ago.
That's exactly the kind of territory we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive into some really rich, pretty complex ideas about origins.
Okay.
And we're drawing from specific sources you shared, insights mainly from H.P. Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, Volume 2. It pulls together threads from a lot of different ancient philosophies, cosmogonies. It's quite a synthesis.
Right, it's dense stuff. So our mission here is really to navigate this material, pull out the core ideas, and just understand this specific perspective on how everything supposedly came to be, through the lens of these sources only.
Exactly. It's not about saying this is the truth, but understanding this particular view. It's fascinating.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where does the source say it all begins?
Well, the starting point isn't really a beginning like we think of it. The source talks about an ultimate reality, something beyond our usual concepts. It's described not as, a creator making things from nothing, ex nihilo. Instead, it's a coming out of the eternal into the cosmos and time.
A coming out.
Yeah, like a movement from this absolute state the source calls BES into being, into the state we can perceive.
VEYS.
Yeah.
Right. Pure potential before anything is actually formed.
That's a good way to put it. It's the one universal absolute unity, eternal, unchanging. But this unity, this absolute, it manifests. It shows primary aspects we can start to talk about.
Okay, so it differentiates itself somehow.
Yes, depending on the lens. In the physical, or what we might call the objective realm, this unity expresses as primordial substance and force.
Substance and force.
And the source points out a fundamental duality there, like think centripetal and centrifugal forces, push and pull, or positive and negative, the basic stuff and the energy acting on it.
The raw material and the juice that shapes it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, the metaphysical or subjective level, that same unity manifests as the spirit of the universe, or cosmic ideation, often called the logos.
The logos, like a universal mind, the blueprint.
That's the idea. The source positions the logos as the basis of the subject side, the source of consciousness, of ideas.
Okay.
And its counterpart is Mula Prakriti. That's the primordial cosmic substance. It's the foundation of the object side, the basis for everything material, the field where evolution happens.
So logos and Mula Prakriti. Mind stuff and matter stuff.
Yeah.
The fundamental pair.
Exactly, working together. And here's a really key insight from the source about force. It's not just there in Mula Prakriti automatically.
Oh.
Force is described as the transformation of the superconscious thought of the logos, infused into Mula Prakriti. Mula Prakriti, the substance, is passive, really. It needs that infusion of force from the logos to become practically existent, to actually do anything.
So the thinking principle, the logos, actually energizes the stuff, Mula Prakriti, to kickstart the universe.
Yeah.
That connection is vital.
Yes, it implies this deep interaction, and this leads to, well, a hierarchy. The source talks about a ruler, or the word that's the logos, and a fabricating spirit, which is nature.
Okay.
And together they form the basis of our perceptible universe, which is often seen as illusory in these texts. But they aren't the ultimate.
There's more behind them.
Behind them is a higher deity, an architect or planner. And even beyond that architect
Is the ultimate source.
is the unknowable, sometimes called Ein Sof. Nameless, beyond attributes, totally outside what human intellect can grasp. Our minds can only deal with its emanations, its reflections.
So trying to wrap our heads around the absolute source itself, it's fundamentally impossible for us.
The source definitely suggests that. And philosophically, it argues for the need for an intracosmic deity, meaning spirit and matter are inseparable within the universe.
Not some external force intervening.
Right. It's a unified principle. Separating them, the source warns, just leads to superstition.
That makes sense, seeing the divine as inherent in the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so this cosmic process unfolds in stages through different principles.
Absolutely. The source brings in the concept of the heavenly man, known by names like protogenos or tikkun.
Heavenly man.
This is presented as the universal form, the ideal pattern, the archetype. And this pattern then gives rise to the manifested logos, specifically called Adam Kadmon,
Adam Cad.
described as the four-lettered symbol of the universe. Essentially the second logos in this unfolding.
Okay, wait. So ultimate principle,
Yeah.
then an archetypal blueprint, the heavenly man protogenos, which then manifests as more active principle, the logos Adam Kadmon. Is that right?
You've got it. And from this second logos, a third aspect springs forth. And it's from this third aspect that MNN are generated. In some systems, this third aspect is cosmic man.
How does the source define logos esoterically here? What does it do?
It's defined as the rendering of concealed thought into objective expression, like developing a photo, bringing out the hidden image. The logos is the mirror reflecting the divine mind. Then the universe mirrors the logos. And then man reflects in himself his own universe for us. That's Earth.
Mirrors reflecting mirrors. Yeah. All the way down from the source. That really paints a picture of connection.
It does. And this mirroring, this emanation, happens at all scales. The doctrine says every universe, every world, every planet has its own logos, reinforcing those layers.
So there are cosmic logoi and planetary logoi and...
presumably hierarchies within hierarchies, and this connects the visible and invisible worlds. There's the invisible logos, linked with its 7 hierarchies or chief angels and inner unseen power. Then there's the visible logos, embodied by the sun and the 7 chief planets. These are the active, visible potencies, the objective reflection of those invisible angels.
Okay, this is where it gets really concrete, connecting to our solar system. And the source brings in those archaic stanzas, right? These ancient verses.
Yes, exactly. Stanza 1, verse 1 is crucial here. It says, "The El-Ah which turns the fourth, Earth, is servant to the lie of the 7 planetary spirits. They who revolve, driving their chariots around their Lord, the one eye, Lokachaksha of our world, his breath gives life to the 7, it gave life to the first." And the commentary adds, "They are all dragons of wisdom."
Whoa, okay, La means spirit.
Yes, spirit or celestial being. So the commentary explains, the spirit guardian of Earth, our planet, being the 4th globe in a chain,
4th globe, okay.
is subordinate to the chief spirit of the 7 planetary genii, or spirits. These are the 7 eyes of the Lord you find mentioned in various traditions.
So Earth's guiding spirit isn't independent. It answers to a council of planetary spirits.
That's the framework presented, and there's a distinction. The exoteric chief is the visible sun, but the esoteric chief is the second logos, the demiurge, the real spiritual source behind it.
Ah, the hidden power.
Right, and when it says his breath gives life to the 7, it has that double meaning again. Physical sun gives life to physical planets. And the spiritual sun, the logos, gives life to the whole cosmos.
Physical and spiritual mirroring each other constantly.
Exactly. The source explains that higher beings, the cosmocrators, fabricated the solar system framework. But Earth itself was fashioned by more specific terrestrial spirits, and all of this supervised by the higher regents, the planetary spirits.
And that line, they are all dragons of wisdom.
Powerful, isn't it? It reframes these governing forces not as monsters, but as embodiments of profound cosmic intelligence guiding evolution.
Dragons of wisdom. I like that. Flips the script. Okay, so Earth gets formed, but it's not ready for life as we know it yet.
Not yet. It has its own evolutionary journey first. The source uses this really vivid analogy of shedding skins. Stanza 4, verse 4 says, "And after great throes, she cast off her old 3 and put on her new 7 skins and stood in her first one."
Old 3, new 7 skins. What's that about?
The source explains, Earth has already passed through 3 previous major evolutionary cycles, or rounds. She's now in the 4th round, our current one. Like a serpent shedding its skin for a new phase, Earth casts off the old conditions. That's why one of her symbolic names is Sarparajni, Queen of the Serpents. The 7 skins she puts on in this round represent 7 major geological transformations and, crucially, the evolution of the 7 root races of humanity.
So Earth's physical changes and humanity's evolution are locked together in these 7 stages.
They run in parallel, according to this. Once Earth is formed in this 4th round but still barren, the stanzas actually give it a voice. It pleads for life. Stanza 2, verse 2, said the Earth, "Lord of the shining face," that's the sun, "my house is empty. Send thy sons to people this wheel." Earth.
Earth is literally asking the sun for inhabitants.
Yes, and interestingly, it mentions the Lord of Wisdom identified as Mercury, or Buddha. Earth points out the sun already sent his sons to Mercury and notes that Mercury gets 7 times more light and heat, which the source flags as an ancient astronomical fact.
But the sun says no, not directly.
Correct. Earth isn't ready. The sun refuses to directly populate Earth at this stage. Instead, it gives instructions in stanza 3, verse 3. It's quite specific.
All right, what does it say?
The sun tells Earth, essentially, "I'll send fire when your work starts. But for people, ask your father, the Lord of the Lotus, Kumudapati, ask the moon for his sons."
The moon. Earth's father is the moon.
That's the symbolic lineage here. Kumadapati, Lord of the Lotus, is a title for the moon. This introduces the concept of lunar parentage. The first progenitors of early humanity in this system are the lunar ancestors, the Pitris, or fathers.
Okay, the moon fathers. And the stanza mentioned a consequence that their men will be mortal.
Yes, because the moon is considered inferior, a dead body giving life to mortal forms. These lunar ancestors, the Pitris, are seen as incomplete. They can provide the basic form, the astral shadow, but not full self-consciousness on their own.
They need some...
They need to be finished by other higher creators. The sun emphasizes Earth's unreadiness. Thy 7 skins are yet on thee. Thou art not ready. Thy men are not ready. Humanity's organism had to evolve. The first root race was ethereal, energy-like eons before the first truly physical humans, the Lemurians, emerged, which the source dates to around 18 million years ago.
Wow. Ethereal races, lunar ancestors. It's a very different picture of our origins. And it involves these cosmic forces, planets playing specific roles. You mentioned Mercury and Venus being important.
Very important. Beyond just the sun and moon, the source emphasizes deep connections between other planets and Earth's creation and evolution, especially Mercury and Venus.
Okay, tell me about Mercury Buddha, the Lord of Wisdom.
Buddha is called Earth's elder stepbrother, offspring of spirit, whereas Earth is offspring of the body, metaphorically speaking. He's linked to figures like Mithra, Hermes, great magicians, and the source connects this to a Hindu myth, the War in Heaven, which it interprets allegorically. Soma, the moon, representing mystic insight, takes Tara, the seeker of esoteric truth, from Brihaspati, Jupiter, representing rigid exoteric ritualism. Their child is Buddha wisdom, specifically occult science. So Buddha, this hidden wisdom, is often seen as opposing conventional religious authority, the Brihaspatis of theology.
That's a potent allegory for the tension between inner wisdom and outer dogma. What about Venus? Sukra.
Venus is huge in this system, called Earth's spiritual prototype, the most occultly powerful planet concerning Earth. The source flat out states, every change on Sukra is felt on and reflected by the Earth.
A direct psychic link almost, like cosmic twins.
Something like that. A deep resonance. Allegorically, Venus has no moons, so it said Venus effigy adopted Earth, progeny of the moon. And Sukra, the regent or spirit of Venus, supposedly loved Earth so much he incarnated as Usanas to give it laws.
Wow.
Sukra is also called the Daita Guru, the priest instructor of the primeval giants of the 4th root race, the Atlanteans.
Instructor to the Atlanteans. And didn't you say Venus is linked to Lucifer?
The source does make that connection. Venus is Lucifer, the light bearer, physically as the morning and evening star, but also mystically. It notes even early Christians acknowledge this, citing a Pope Lucifer.
And this ties into the fall into generation. How?
Yes. A commentary links the descent into physical bodies, into separate sexes, specifically to Sukra Venus. It says it was through Sukra that the double ones, the hermaphrodites of the 3rd root race, descended from less material states into more physical ones.
That's a specific planetary influence on a key stage of human evolution. Is this symbolized somehow?
It is in the symbol of Venus itself. The source traces its evolution. Started as a simple circle, wholeness, self-generation, then an early Tao, potential duality maybe, then the familiar globe over the cross signifying the separation of sexes and the descent into physical generation, matter over spirit.
The circle, Tao, globe, and cross, encoding that whole story.
Exactly. And the Egyptian Ankh, the looped cross, is presented as another version of this mankind stepping out of the divine circle into physical generation.
Incredible symbolism. So planets aren't just rocks, they're forces, intelligences, influencing our deep past.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to those early men, the non-physical ones.
Right. The source is clear. They weren't like us initially. They were the celestial men, the Pitar or Pitris, those lunar progenitors we talked about.
And their job was?
They were the first creators of human forms, but their creations were incomplete. They fashioned the first atoms as astral shadows, subtle forms made from their own essence. But these shadows lacked something vital.
The spark. Intellect.
Exactly. Manas, the thinking principle, self-consciousness, they needed to be finished. And this is where those dragons of wisdom, the Dhyanis, come back in.
The higher spirits?
Yes. The source states these Dhyanis, these higher beings, incarnated into those incomplete astral forms created by the Pitris. By doing so, they infused them with intellect, with Manas. That act made true thinking man possible.
So our capacity for thought comes from these higher beings, merging with the forms created by the lunar ancestors.
That's the essential picture. And for this act of descending into material forms, these dhyānis are called the Chuda, meaning the fallen. But fallen here means fallen into generation, into matter, not necessarily a moral fall like in some traditions.
Fallen into matter. That sounds like it could connect to myths worldwide.
The source absolutely makes that connection. It points to parallels everywhere. In China, the 12 Tianhuang beings with human faces and dragon bodies, there's that dragon link again, are said to create men by animating 7 clay figures.
Okay.
In Syria, the Druze tradition speaks of sons of God descending to animate 7 mandragoras, plant-like figures. In Scandinavia, the Eddas tell of the 12 Azers breathing life and sense into early human forms.
So underlying these different stories is maybe a common memory of this dual origin, the form from one source, the consciousness from another.
That's precisely the argument. These allegories, seen this way, point to man's fundamental nature, dual male and female, and also triple, spiritual essence, psychic in-phase within a material body. Our physical form needs animating principles.
Spiritual, psychic, material, a layered reality mirroring the cosmos. And you mentioned the serpent symbol earlier connected to wisdom.
Definitely. The source stresses the ancient link between the serpent and gods of wisdom, Thoth in Egypt, Hermes in Greece, Hea in Babylon. These aren't figures of evil, but givers of knowledge, health, enlightenment.
Right.
The Upanishads even have a section on the science of serpents, interpreted as the science of occult knowledge. And the Nagas, often shown as serpent people, are presented in the source as potentially real human adepts, some great sages with profound knowledge, others perhaps misusing it as black magicians.
So the serpent is a symbol for that deep hidden knowledge, powerful and potentially double-edged. Completely reframes a common narrative.
It offers a very different lens. And weaving through all of this, the cosmic structure, human evolution is the persistent importance of the number 7.
Yes, 7. It keeps popping up. Why is it so fundamental in this system?
Pythagoras apparently called it the vehicle of life. The source sees it as embodying both the spiritual, the quaternary, wisdom, intellect, and the material, the trinity, action, matter.
4 plus 3.
Exactly. Its constant appearance in myths, 7 caves, 7 cities, 7 families saved from floods, these are seen as corresponding to the 7 primary zones or centers on Earth where the first groups of each root race originated.
So 7 is like the fundamental blueprint number for manifestation.
It seems to be presented that way, a core organizational principle. And man, as the microcosm, reflects this. He mirrors the phenomenal world, which is septenary.
How is man symbolized with 7?
Metaphysically, man is the mystic square, the tetractys, which is 4, related to 7. On the creative plane, he's the cube, 6 faces, but his key symbol and embodiment is the unfolded cube.
The cross shape.
Yes, the one that looks like a cross with 6 squares, 6 becoming 7, with a central point. It's described as 3 squares crossways, feminine passive, and 4 vertically masculine active. This represents man's physical body as the cross of flesh.
The cross of flesh.
Yes, the material form upon which his divine logos, his higher self, is metaphorically crucified spirit bound within matter during earthly life.
Wow, the body as the place where spirit is bound. That's intense symbolism.
It speaks to the inherent tension and challenge of spiritual existence in a physical reality. And this septenary pattern isn't just individual, it applies to humanity collectively. The world evolves sectenarily, and so do its humanities, the 7 great root races.
And each race has a connection to a specific planet, right?
That's right. Each race is said to emerge and develop under the primary influence of a specific dhyani, a wisdom spirit, and its associated planet. The source lays out a sequence. First race influenced by the sun, second race by Jupiter, third by Venus, Sukra. The fourth race, the Atlantean, is linked to the moon and Saturn, and our current 5th root race is said to be primarily under Mercury, Buddha, the Lord of Wisdom.
So the planets are like cosmic tutors or guides for each major phase of human evolution, shaping consciousness and form.
That's a good way to put it. They embody principles that influence life cycles on Earth. And finally, the source introduces a couple of really intriguing figures associated with preserving and transmitting all this ancient knowledge, the astronomy, the cycles, the chronology.
Each keepers of the wisdom. Who are they?
The main 2 mentioned are Narada and Asuramaya. Narada is an ancient Vedic rishi, a sage, but in the esoteric philosophy, specifically Sissimalayan occultism, he's known as Peshan.
Peshan. Means
the messenger. But he's presented as much more than just a messenger. He's described as the sole confidant of Adibud, primordial wisdom, and the executor of karma's universal laws.
executor of karma.
Yes, an active, apparently ever-incarnating logos who helps guide human affairs, adjust karmic balances. Exoteric myths might call him a strife maker, but esoterically, his role is crucial for progress. And crucially, the old stanzas credit him with calculating all the cosmic and astronomical cycles, past and future, and teaching this science to the earliest human stargazers.
The original astronomer priest, calculating cosmic time, that's huge. And Asuramaya.
Asuramaya is described as a great Atlantean. A magician, astrologer, astronomer, the source states his major astronomical works were based directly on Narada's ancient records. Asuramaya is credited with determining the lengths of past geological and cosmic ages and predicting future cycles.
So the incredibly vast timescales and cycles mentioned in the source, which are also found in some Brahminical calculations. They trace back to this Atlantean, Asuramaya, who got it from Narada.
That is precisely what the source claims. It says the calculations are the Brahmins, yes, but also those of the Secret Doctrine itself, rooted in Indian zodiacs and Asuramaya's Atlantean work. And it stresses that these Atlantean records are considered reliable because they were compiled under the guidance of those beings who first taught astronomy like Narada.
A lineage of cosmic knowledge stretching back potentially millions of years, predating anything we usually think of as history, suggesting a very advanced understanding in the deep past.
It definitely paints a picture of ancient wisdom far exceeding conventional timelines.
Wow. Okay, so we've traced this incredible arc from an unknowable absolute source down through the logos and cosmic substance, the hierarchies of spirits, the planetary influences, the dragons of wisdom, Earth shedding its skins, the call for life, the lunar fathers, and the arrival of intellect via the dhyanis.
Yeah, the whole complex process.
All underpinned by this framework of 7, influencing cosmos, Earth, and humanity through its root races. And finally, hints of ancient keepers like Narada and Asuramaya preserving this knowledge.
It's quite a journey through this specific cosmological map, a very intricate tapestry.
And hopefully going through it like this gives you, the listener, a clearer handle on this particular unique perspective from the source material, this esoteric view of cosmic and human origins.
And perhaps leaves you with something to think about. Like, what if those ancient myths and symbols we often dismiss aren't just simple stories? What if they really do hold complex, coded knowledge about the universe and about our own potential within it? Maybe it invites us to look just a little deeper, beyond the literal surface.